We finally got to see it on screen. We see the Mother of Dragons meet Tywin Lannister. It's just never going to happen in the actual show. Hello once again, watchers of good movies. My name is Nick Pell and this is once again coming from my apartment. Now today we are going to be talking about the film Me Before You. This is a film which is a romance based on a book which I've never read, so I'm not going to be comparing it to the book whatsoever. I have no idea how accurate it is compared to the source material. So if you're looking for that, not going to find it here. The film stars Emilia Clarke as this woman named Louisa Clarke, who is kind of someone who doesn't really have any purpose per se in her life. She just kind of works odd jobs and doesn't really have any inspirations or anything really going for her. She has kind of a dick boyfriend who she's been dating for 7 years, and yeah, one day she ends up with a job being a caretaker for a guy in a wheelchair. This guy is Will Traynor. He's played by Sam Claflin, and he is kind of a dick when they end up meeting because he's very sarcastic. He just doesn't want to be bothered by anybody because he's very ultimately depressed about his situation, and he just doesn't really like people. And so when you got Emilia Clarke trying to basically do her best to take care of this guy, she's a sweet, innocent girl. And Emilia Clarke was easily one of my favorite parts of this movie just because of how goofy and how adorable and awkward she is a lot of times in this movie, especially in the beginning. Those were the funniest parts of the movie for me, just seeing her interactions with people and just how awkward she is sometimes. It was just very, very funny to watch. And that made for some really good chemistry with Sam Claflin because, like I said, he starts out as a dick, and then once he starts to open up to her, we get to see this chemistry start to form between them, along with a romance ultimately develop between the two of them. And that's a really fun thing to see, and I really like this romance because it felt very natural. It wasn't very rushed. It didn't really dive into the romance aspects right away within the first half hour of the movie, like a lot of romances choose to do. It was very, very stretched out until it finally got to the romance hooking up part of it. And so I really appreciate that, and it felt very natural in that regard. Another main conflict of this movie is the idea that Will, because of his situation, he is stuck in a wheelchair. He used to be this huge outdoors person. He used to do all these extreme activities, and he is no longer able to live that life. He wakes up in the morning screaming because he dreams about still being able to do these things, but he's confined to his chair. He's paralyzed from the neck down, and he can't do anything anymore. And that really affects his will to live and his state of living, and so he wants to do assisted suicide. And so a lot of the conflict in this movie is the idea that, oh hey, do we allow him to do that? And he gives his parents 6 months of his life before he's going to do this. And a lot of the movie is spent trying to convince him like that life's worth living and he shouldn't go through with it, stuff like that. And so it's kind of an interesting way to deal with it. And I like that they do bring up both sides of the issue. One is a little bit bigger than the other and stands out a little bit more, but they do bring up kind of both sides, and I did appreciate seeing that. I'm not going to go into my stance on it, but I did like that they did a respect to it in this movie, and then just play out one side and say like the other side was completely wrong or evil or anything like that. I did feel like there were a couple characters that were wasted in this film, however. We got Charles Dance from Game of Thrones, we got Jenna Coleman from Doctor Who, two very big stars and very well-known stars, but they don't really do a whole lot in this movie, which is kind of unfortunate. Maybe they did a lot more in the book, and so they just had to cut the characters down for time, but I just kind of felt like they were a little bit wasted, and like anybody could have really filled those roles. And then, as this is a romance love story, you are going to have some cheesy moments. For the most part, they don't really detract from the movie too much, but there were a few times where I was shaking my head and kind of surprised that they actually went that far with some things. But then into the film, I actually quite enjoyed because it had this level of inspiration, and it kind of dealt with something which I personally kind of reflect on a lot of times in my personal life. And yeah, I actually quite enjoyed this movie, surprisingly. A lot of romance movies fall flat for me. For example, earlier this year, The Choice. Not good, because it just didn't do tragic romance well. This one did it a lot better, and I actually quite enjoyed it for what it was. I like the relationships between Emilia Clarke and Sam Claflin. I thought that they did really, really well in their roles, and it's just a very fun movie to watch. Well, not necessarily fun, but it was a very cute movie to watch, and something which I appreciated seeing in theaters. Guys, if you are a fan of this type of genre of movie, definitely check out Me Before You. I say it's well worth your time. Again, good performances by the whole cast, and yeah, definitely check it out if it's something that you're interested in seeing. So guys, those are just my thoughts on Me Before You. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you hate it more than I did? Let me know. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Once again, if you so choose, I appreciate it immensely. And as always, my people, my name is Nick Pell. And once again, keep on watching.